This is Zach Cook for Game Scripting 218, and this is the phase 2 of my final project. I have decided to go back to my first level that was for Project 1 and 2 and touch it up and add on to it for my final. So we're going to go ahead and go through it. I'm just going to play through it once.
Hello. Welcome to Stanford Industries. You must be here for the interview? Please take this keycard and head through the door over there. Take the elevator up.
So all that was from the other projects. This gets into the new stuff.
Are you here for the interview? Go through the door at the end of the room. Oh. The key cards don't work on that door. Let me get that for you.
So I have gone and touched up the old stuff with some of the new things that we know now. I've gone ahead and put sounds into matinees rather than into blueprints where I can. However, are still some issues where since we're reversing the matinee to close the door, I can't play a second sound for the door closing, so those are still set. The door closing sounds are still set in the blueprint. And so this door is still set up to do that if you don't have the key card, and to do that when you do. And so this is another matinee for setting all of the sparks and the sounds off and then opening the doors. You couldn't see them because the lighting wasn't built, but the red lights were flickering on and off. And then this drops from the ceiling and the player pushes it in, and then that activates this matinee that takes the camera and sets it to this camera that shows the player that the door is open. And that was all from the first 1 or 2 or 3 projects. So what I have new is the AI guard. And so he patrols around the room until he sees the player. And I have it set up to where when he sees the player for the first time, so it checks to see if they've hit the door yet, and if they haven't, and it checks to see if they've talked yet, and if they haven't, he'll go ahead and go straight to. And so the first time the player enters his trigger box, it's going to play the audio of "go to the door over there." So then once the player goes to the door and has pressed E on it once, the blueprint is going to set "has tried door" in the guard's AI blueprint. So it's going to go into the guard AI and set that boolean. And then once that's happened, let's see. Once that happens, the player will need to get his attention again and walk up to him again. And once it's once they come into his trigger box a second time, and also once they've, pressed E on the door, he will be looking for them once again. And so once they've hit his trigger box the second time after having tried the door, it's going to play the second sound, set the door, and then go to the matinee. So there's a difference between has tried and hit door. So has tried has the player pressed E on the door, and if so, once the player presses E on the door, that's going to be set to true, and so that's going to set off this has tried door, so that he will look and run after him a second time once he's pressed E on the door. And so once he hits the trigger box a second time, it's going to play the sound, and it's going to set this hit door boolean, which is so the guard knows that he has hit the door, and it's going to wait a few seconds for the sound to play, and then it's going to play the matinee. And then I have set it up where on tick head to destination, as long as the hit door hasn't happened yet, he will patrol around, but once the hit door has happened, it's going to set the move location to the waypoint, which is waypoint door. So that's right here. So he's going to patrol around, and the player will, the first time he sees the player, the first time it hits the trigger box, he'll talk to the player and say to go to the door. And once the player has come to the door and tried it, then he will be able to run up to them a second time, and once they're in the trigger box that second time, he'll go and open the door. So that's the first scene.
Are you here for the interview? Go
And he
through
goes
the
back
door
to
at the
patrolling
end of
after
the
that.
room.
And it's not until, so he can see me right now, it's not until I've hit the door
Oh,
that he'll come up
the
to
key
me
cards don't work
the
on that
second
door.
time and
Let
open
me
it.
get that for you.
So that's a more complex AI system that I've set up, along with all of the stuff from the previous